Hi, and welcome back. Today is our final episode. I want to begin today by asking you to pause for a moment. Just breathe, put everything else aside, and acknowledge quietly, with kindness towards yourself, that you showed up 10 weeks, 10 conversations, 10 invitations to look honestly at yourself, at your patterns, at what you've been carrying, and what you might be ready to release. That takes courage, patience, and a willingness to sit with discomfort and a belief, even a small, uncertain one, that it's worth looking inward. So before we go anywhere else today, thank you. Thank you for being here for yourself. That matters more than I can say. If by chance you have not started the series as yet, or you would like to recap, you're welcome to go back and start again, or just go to the episodes that resonate with you. So, this episode isn't about a new technique or a final insight you're supposed to take away and implement. It's about integration, about weaving everything we've explored into the fabric of how you actually live. Not as a practice you do separately from your life, but as a way of being that gradually becomes who you truly, authentically are. I want to share something I held back earlier in the series. I held it back because I wasn't sure that this was the space for it, or whether it was too much to offer. But I've thought about it, and I think that it's important that I share this with you. So here it is. There were moments in my journey, real, genuinely dark moments, when I felt hopeless, not just tired or uncertain, absolutely hopeless. When the ground had shifted completely and I couldn't see forward, and I genuinely didn't know how to go on. The divorce, the financial fear, the physical changes I didn't expect, the identity I was losing and hadn't yet replaced. There were days when everything felt too heavy and the future felt opaque, and I couldn't locate the point of continuing. And then I would look at my daughters, not to, not to perform strength for them, not to paste a smile on and pretend everything was fine, but because I had made myself a promise, very quiet, and completely non negotiable, that I would model for them the life I wanted them to have, the freedom, the perseverance, the genuine love for life, and the courage to be real. You cannot teach your children with words, only with actions. They watch what you do, not what you say. They see how you treat yourself when things are hard, and that becomes their internal template for how they will treat themselves. That knowing that my daughters were learning how to be in the world by watching me has been the single most powerful force in my entire journey. On the days I couldn't find the reason for myself, I found it for them. I got up, I kept going, I kept choosing, and slowly, and not in a straight line, I became someone I also found the reason for myself. Someone I could choose, regardless of who was watching. I tell you this because wherever you find your reason, whether it's your children, a person you love, a cause that matters to you, or simply the deep, stubborn part of yourself that refuses to give up, that reason is valid. It is enough. Use it on the days when nothing else will do. I want to describe what the integration of this journey looks like in a day. Not perfectly, and not consistently, but in an ordinary texture of a day when I'm living it. It shows up in how I move my body. I walk not to burn calories, but because the rhythm of it settles my thinking and connects me to the world in a way that sitting does it. I swim because being held by water does something for me that I can't fully explain but fully feel. I do yin yoga in the evenings with a candle burning and music that slows my nervous system down. And I stay in the long holes even when they're uncomfortable because I know that the discomfort is usually where I find something. It shows up in how I nourish myself. I eat in a way that cooperates with my body rather than battles it, that regulates rather than spikes, that supports rather than depletes. This wasn't always my relationship with food. It took time and attention and honestly a kind of grief for the foods I used to eat without consequence. But my body is a messenger and I've learned to take the messages very seriously. It shows up in how I tend my plants. This sounds like a small thing, and it is, and also it isn't. There is something in the daily practice of attending to living things, watching, adjusting, waiting, noticing, that teaches patience in a way nothing else quite does. My plants have made me a more patient person. They've taught me that growth really announces itself. It accumulates quietly, invisibly, and then one day it's undeniable. It shows up in how I say no, cleanly, without a 3 paragraph apology, without guilt about disappointing someone who asked too much, and in how I say yes deliberately from choice, not from obligation or fear. It shows up in the quiet joy of a new sourdough attempt, even knowing it might not be impressive. A game of paddle with my daughters where nobody cares who wins, an evening with no agenda, a morning cup of tea on my balcony where I'm not doing anything else but just being. And that being, I've learned with some surprise, is enough. And it is, in fact, the whole point. I want to try to describe what it feels like on the days when all of this is working. Not because I live there constantly, I don't, none of us do, but because I think it helps to know what you're moving toward. It feels like a kind of settledness, not the settledness of having everything figured out or resolved, but an internal settledness. A sense that even though there is uncertainty and even though things are still being worked out, the ground under you is solid. You are not performing, you are not bracing, you are simply here, and that's enough. It feels less like noise, not because the external world has quietened down, it hasn't, but because the internal commentary has. The voice that used to run a constant assessment of how you're doing relative to where you should be has grown quieter. Not silent, but quieter. And in that quiet, you can hear the things that actually matter. It feels like genuine choices. When you act from wholeness, you choose. You don't react. You don't people please or perform to comply from fear. You consider, and then you decide. And when you decide from that place, you can stand behind your decisions because they feel like yours. Here is what I believe. You are whole as you are right now, not a future version of you who has worked through everything and arrived somewhere clear and resolved. This version, the one, the one that is work in progress, the one still figuring things out, the one who showed up for 10 episodes of this honest conversation and sat with the things that surfaced. You do not need to go out into the world seeking yourself in someone else's answer, or someone else's system, or someone else's timeline. Everything you need is already in you, but it asks for uncluttering, releasing the noise, the nonsense, the inherited beliefs you never chose, the performed identities you built out of necessity. When you do that work, slowly, without force, with patience and gentleness and trust, your true self emerges, your actual talents, your genuine beauty, your knowing. This takes time, more time than we want, more linear time than is comfortable. But I can tell you from where I stand, from my own imperfect, ongoing practice of finding my way back to myself, it's worth every single moment, every quiet morning, every honest journal entry, every small boundary held, everything laid down with love. That quiet inner voice has never actually been wrong about you. It has just been drowned out by everything we decided was louder or more urgent or more important. Come back to it again and again. That is the journey. So, as an ending, I would like you to do some things. I would like you to write a letter to yourself, to the version of you before this series, or to the version of you in 10 years. Tell her what you've learned, what you're choosing, who you're becoming. Keep it somewhere you'll find it on a difficult day. The next thing is choose one practice from these 10 episodes to anchor into your daily life. Just one, not the whole list. One is enough. Something that felt true to you, something that opened a door for you. Do it with love, not obligation. Let it be something you return to because it brings you home. And lastly, tell someone you trust about one thing you've learned about yourself. A partner, a friend, a daughter. Speak it out loud. Speaking it makes it real in a way that staying inside your own head never quite can. With all the love I have to give, thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for showing up, for choosing yourself week after week, for being willing to look honestly and gently at who you've been and who you're becoming. This isn't a goodbye. This is the beginning. I'll see you in my next series. Lots of love. Bye.